ADHD Babes, the podcast, a podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Join us every 2 weeks to share in our babes' personal experiences, gain useful tools, and be educated by special guests in topics such as ADHD management, relationships, general well-being, tech and fun, culture, and more. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDBabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast.
Welcome back to another discussion episode. Thank you to everyone who's joined us so far. Please don't forget to follow and leave us a rating and review and share with others. Today's episode is hosted by me, Beza, and
me, Shireen. As the members of ADHD Babes are those who experience a late diagnosis, today we're going to be reflecting on our childhoods to discuss all of the symptoms that we had that were missed.
Joining in on our discussion, we have two ADHD babes. Our first guest is Jules, who you've listened to previously. Welcome, Jules. Tell us a little bit about yourself and when you got diagnosed.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jules. Thanks for having me. It feels quite different to be a guest this time around compared to being a host in the past. A little bit about me. I am a personal assistant by day, as well as a writer / producer by passion and all that jazz. And I first was diagnosed, I want to say, 2021, I think around July 2021. So that's when I officially got an official diagnosis. So yeah, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Our second ADHD babe is Shauna. Welcome, Shauna. Can you tell us about yourself and when you got diagnosed?
Hello, it's nice to actually be talking on these ones, not in the background.
Hey.
So I have been on the podcast before, and most people know me for producing it. I am by trade a customer success specialist, so I work in SaaS, and I also freelance as a voiceover artist. So I do voice narration and podcasting. I first got diagnosed last December, so just less than a year, a little bit less than Jules. Yeah.
It seems all kind of recent then, which is kind of cool.
When were you guys diagnosed?
I had mine end of January this year, so we're all kind of like quite close.
Mm-hmm. Mine is December 2020 as well. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. So is it the pandemic?
What, waking us up and being like, oh wait, that's why we are the way we are. Oh,
it was for me. It was definitely the pandemic. I think being alone with myself and then realizing all the different things that I'm doing. I'm just like, God. This doesn't. What is this? I think it was an eye opener, and I kind of just saw a lot of. I know I don't want to kind of like deviate from the conversation, but I saw a lot of I kind of TikToks, videos, and then I came across ADHD Babes, and that was kind of what made me kind of do the push to speak to my doctors and then kind of get a referral and stuff. So yeah,
I definitely saw things online. I saw the comics. Do you guys know the comics?
Is that the Dino kind of little dinosaur ones? Is that a different one?
Or the brain ones? The it's like a little girl.
No,
I don't remember. I'll look it up though. But that's a good segue to our conversation about, I guess, what type of symptoms do you struggle with most currently, and when do you think back to your childhood, or when you speak to family members, like, were these symptoms you had back then as well, or How did you come to understanding these symptoms after seeing them online?
I feel like when I first kind of started being more self-aware about my symptoms, my childhood was like the first thing I went to rather than like even just now, because I feel like maybe you know what you're struggling with right now and then you realize, oh my God, that was there. So it was things like not realizing just how distracted I was in exams. Like I didn't realize it wasn't normal to be like turning your head every time someone dropped a pen, or like literally just getting annoyed and watching the clock, you know. So like just looking around constantly, I just thought that was normal. I just thought, you know, no one else did it while I was looking. But I think that for me the biggest symptom that I think got missed at in childhood was things like talking a lot. Like I was always talking, I was always told off for talking in classes, outside of classes, and and definitely like just staring out the windows and just not really paying attention at times. But because I really enjoyed school, I think they kind of, and I was good at it, I think they kind of just let me slide. I think if I wasn't um as smart or doing so well, and it's not even really about smartness, I guess, but doing so well, I think maybe they would have paid a little bit more attention. But I definitely feel like you hear so many of us talking about just how much we talk, and I've been in all of these podcast recording episodes, so I know just how much we talk. But yeah,
Oh
so
my
like that
gosh.
kind of thing I think was the biggest symptom that I still struggle with now and would have been in my childhood.
Do you have
I'd,
similar?
I'm kind of like the opposite of Shauna. Like I did all the staring out the windows and stuff like that, but I completely failed school.
Mm.
So it did not go well for me, but I had quite like similar symptoms as to what you did. So it's quite interesting to see how different it is when, like, I guess you're smarter compared to if you kind of struggle with school, I guess.
I don't want to call it
Mm.
smartness, because I don't think that just because you didn't do well, it means that you're dumb. So I'm just gonna call it like perseverance or something like that.
Yeah. I should probably reframe that in my mind, actually. That is a better way of seeing it. You're right. You're totally right.
I think for me it was sort of I don't know, it was a combination of many different things. I think like being in school, something that I now know I do as an adult is being easily distracted. I think that was something in school that was always sort of in my school report. Juliana does well until she's distracted by another student. And then it's just like she's off the rails. So I would get that a lot. And because I guess my energy, when I was relatively younger, I was more of a kind of like reserved child, but at the same time, I was a little bit sociable. But if I didn't understand something in class, if the teacher wasn't kind of giving me enough sort of resources, I'm immediately distracted and I will distract everybody in the class. So that was something that was
Yeah.
always in my report, is that if Juliana's not getting her way, it's kind of like hell breaks loose to the rest of the class. And it sounds like I was like the leader that was just like everybody, like Juliana's not getting it today, so she's gonna cause riot and everyone's not gonna listen. But it did sort of kind of like feel like that. And I think that was always something that was brought to the attention of my parents. And to my parents, they just thought I was being a naughty child when it they didn't actually, to them, like I have Nigerian parents, you know, I'm first gen Black British. So ADHD to them was like, what? What's that? Any sort of,
Mm,
you know, thing is just like, no, you're not working hard enough or you're not listening,
mm,
pay more attention. So the thought of kind of just like even considering kind of like, you know, them or the teachers kind of saying, we're a little bit worried about Juliana and her attentiveness and stuff like that. To them, it was just like a write-off. No, she just needs to work harder. And I do definitely feel like they if they had known at the time, um, I think the opportunities around getting the best support in school would have been
mm,
extremely beneficial for me. And I think at one point the head teacher in primary school noticed that there was something, you know, kind of like, should we do further tests? But my parents completely wrote it off because to them, again, Christians, what do you mean? God forbid, she's
Yeah.
okay. It was none of that
Yeah.
existed. So which I kind of like, it then became a coping sort of thing. As I started going into secondary school and then going into college and then, you know, kind of uni and stuff, until, like I mentioned, hitting the pandemic and realizing that no, this feels a bit, it's overwhelming, and the masking became a thing where I could no longer do it because it was just like my mind was like, girl, are you tired? Are you not tired of trying to mask that, you know, you can do all of this stuff when in reality it's a struggle.
Do you know what you like? You just, I don't know, like literally on the point. It was like we talk about like the pandemic. I think what the pandemic did was let us slow down, and we're always we're always doing stuff. We're always busy. We're always doing that. We couldn't do anything in the pandemic, and that is exactly what it is. I was so fed up of masking. I was so fed up. I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore because I was constantly trying to be someone else, who, depending on who I was with. So I feel like maybe that is actually what the pandemic did for us. If that's the real like connection between the four of us, like I think that's so on the head.
Yeah.
I definitely felt the same way because always on the go, always, you know, going to class, everything was a time schedule. Like I also drove to get to the bus. Like we have a thing called like park and ride. And so I had to be on time to get to the park and ride. I had to be on time to class. I had to be on time to work. And, you know, just like commuting and all that. It was just so much things that I had to like time myself on, I guess. And then at the end of the day, it's like I just have no mental, like when I get to class, I had no mental like I didn't have mental space to like be in that, like to focus in uni. And so like I did a lot of like hardship withdrawals. I did a lot of like things like that until like I kind of understood that there was a problem. Like I went through a lot of things in uni to just like mental health stuff, and then like at the end of it I figured out I had ADHD, but I already was doing therapy before like figuring that out. But then when I told my therapist, I was like, I think this thing is existing. So yeah, it definitely was a journey.
I'd heard of ADHD like maybe like 4, maybe 5 years ago. I didn't really know what it was. But it's not until like a bereavement in my family happened and then I had therapy and then like the psychologist kind of picked up on it. So I just thought the whole time I had anxiety and depression and BPD, but it turns out it wasn't that. But it took for that bereavement to happen for me to end up seeing that therapist for her to pick it up. So it's like if that hadn't happened, which obviously like that's not cool that happened, it's really sad, but I still wouldn't know. I still would have like no clue like at all. So it's kind of weird to think about that. Yeah. Sorry.
That's really, so I was going to say that's really interesting, and something just literally just popped into my head in regards to, I know that it's like, I guess, common knowledge, or the statistics say that women and young girls are less likely to be diagnosed from an early age because the symptom misdiagnosed from an early age, because I guess that, you know, the symptoms, because automatically when people think of ADHD, they just think of hyperactiveness, and you know, they don't think that, you know, there are different sort of elements to it. And I was thinking to myself, what if it's like a thing of like in schools that, you know, once you start school, and I might just be going off on one and just in my own la la land for a second, that it's compulsory that every student does have do kind of one of those diagnosis reports. So it's kind of not like noticed early on so they can get the necessary resources, because I think it just goes back to what I was saying, is that if the bits of kind of like support, if I had the support in school or throughout school, who knows, I like, obviously everything happens in life for a reason, but who knows the sort of kind of like support I would have had, then would have been able, kind of like, you know, coping stuff that I'll be able to kind of like use and do in my adult life, compared to now feeling like there's a lot of things that I have to unlearn and to then
Yeah.
relearn as an adult. And sometimes it's just like, oh, you know,
Yep.
when you just get so frustrated with yourself because
Yep.
now you have to really think a lot of things through. Think of, okay, you know, like for example, this morning I'm literally like, I've got to think of my to-do list. If I don't think it, if it's not, because it's not second nature to me, if I don't think
Yes.
it, I'm gonna forget it.
It's not gonna
Whereas, you
happen.
know, exactly. Whereas, you know, I know that, you know, ADHD coaches are now a thing that has really been helpful in teaching you how to do all of those things to, you know, sort of learn those coping kind of like mechanisms. Imagine having that as a kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To then come to, yeah. So sorry, I just went on a tangent.
Do you know what? Like, I like your tangent because I think you do have a good point, but your other point kind of circumvents this point in a way, because the thing is about schools is parents still have to sign off on it. That's why I think
Yeah.
maybe not the tests, but I definitely am an advocate of getting primary school teachers more educated on neurodivergence. It's really funny because when I presented the possibility of me having ADHD to my parents, my dad all of a sudden remembered this thing that literally my dad tells me stories from literally I was like 6 months old, but yeah, he's never told me this story before, right? And he was like, oh, do you know, actually, like when you were about 7 and you started primary school, your teacher actually had a meeting with me and your mum and said that, you know, she thought that you were having troubles focusing. And I'm like,
Wow.
so she was telling you what, like, dude, what happened? But they agreed because I was ahead of some of the other people in my class and I picked up school really easily, that I must just be bored rather than I actually just have trouble focusing.
Wow.
So they didn't really do it. Nothing became of it. And I think if the teacher knew, she obviously knew something was off with me, but if the teacher knew more about neurodivergence, she maybe would have pushed my parents, who probably, who are first generation born here. I'm second generation. So I think they would have been a little bit more open to it if they had been approached to it. But they kind of got so close, and then like it went the other way. And it took another, you know, 25 years to actually get like a diagnosis. But I do agree, like primary schools especially, because if you can catch it when someone's between 7 and 12, then you can kind of circumvent a lot of the impulsive things that we might do, especially in teens when our hormones are all over the place.
Yeah.
Might be able to help us through what is quite difficult in terms of education. Maybe more of us would have actually completed education or higher education just by starting really early. I was actually saying the other day, in support of what Jules has just said, is that if for those people who found out they had ADHD as children, they don't have to work as hard because they start by setting their lives in the boundaries that they need to put in place, whereas we, like Jules says, have to take everything away that we've kind of put in as coping mechanisms and learn them again. So in a way, we're kind of like making the job just that little bit harder, and that's exactly what we don't need.
Yeah, we're like at a disadvantage because it's like so much stuff to like unprogram as well. And like one thing for me at school, like I've always been a fidgeter and like I just can't keep still. But then I kind of feel like if my parents had been told that I had ADHD, they would have dismissed it. So either way, I feel like I wouldn't have got like any help like at all,
Yeah.
which is a shame, but I know for a fact they would have just completely dismissed it.
Thinking about parents as advocates, I think a lot of times parents were advocating because they thought that we were smart enough and like why like this thing is happening. Because I know with my situation in second grade during standardized testing, we had like a reading test and I had like a 6th grade reading level, and then I failed that test because I was just looking at the pictures and my teacher couldn't say anything. And so my mom like went to like where the school district and advocated for me to take that again. And so like those kind of things like I feel like have happened, but because like they're like, okay, this it didn't come out as like, oh, she's neurodivergent. It was just like, oh, that was a distracted moment. But that was like a thing that would be, you could say, like, was an advocate for towards like what, like, that's not something easily done, but there was no underlying ADHD factor in it, but rather like, oh, she's smart, so there must have been something else going on. Like, just let her do it again.
Mm.
And so that's what
Did you
I
pass
think.
the second time?
Oh, definitely with flying
Okay.
colors.
Yay.
Yeah,
Oh
that's the
yeah.
thing. Yeah, I know, second grade me, yes. But yeah, since like, but yeah, like I feel like that was a major like thing that I could look back on and be like, wait, but then once we lose all those things when we get into uni, our parents are not as much of our advocate anymore. And then it's like,
Mm,
now what? When we fail, like who's gonna back us up?
mm, no one.
Yeah.
And that is usually exactly when we do fail as well, like when
Yep.
it's university, because that has the least structure as well. Like I remember like just getting into like 18 and starting uni and just thinking, this is the complete opposite of what we've just spent the last however many like decades doing. Like, you telling me where I need to be, when I need to study, how much studying I need to do, to literally just doing nothing. And I just didn't understand how people just knew what was required of them.
Mm.
And I guess that just made me fail. Well, a
Oh.
number of things made me fail, but I got there in the end.
No, I totally get that.
Hey.
We were gonna ask, I guess, like, what symptoms did you experience during the school day, and what symptoms did you experience at home? If there was any difference for you as a child or even in university.
I remembered this symptom the other day, and I knowing this was happening, I wondered if any of you ever did it. I think I've kind of mentioned it before. Um, but as a like in primary school, so I must have been like between 7 and 12, um, I would like put my hand up to answer a teacher's question, and by time she or he came to me to answer the question, I would just not know what it is. And I used to just think, oh, like you just never knew the answer, you just put up your hand for attention. But now I'm starting to think, no, actually you just waited so long wanting to say what it is that you wanted to say that you forgot it.
Mm.
And that used to happen like frequently, like all the time, but I never really noticed that that was a symptom. And at home it was just more like the complete distractedness. Like, I only really wanted to play games, and I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't
Yep.
want to even take off my school clothes at the end of the day, like it was kind of like, oh, but getting undressed is just so unnecessary. Like, why do I have to make my bed? I'm just gonna have to get back in it and mess it up, like, why am I opening the curtains? I'm going to leave all day, and when I come back it will be dark, so I need to close them again, so what's the point of opening them? Like, that was the
Yep.
kind of like defiance that I had. And I was just really argumentative. Like, my mum says,
Mm.
if I know I'm right in an argument or a discussion, I won't back down. And I was like, well, why should I back down when I know
If
I'm
you know you're
right?
right. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You won't back
Yeah.
down, and you're wrong.
I totally resonate.
Yeah, so that was like, I think, my recent realization. I suppose I'm still kind of finding symptoms in my childhood
Do
now
you
with.
think masking, like when you came home, like where was there a difference between that? Or is that kind of why you didn't want to take off your clothes, all that stuff, like just the mental fatigue of being in that
I think it
classroom
was more
situation?
masking at school, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like I masked at home.
Okay.
I don't feel like I need to at home as much. Like, yes, I
Right.
know that I've got to do some stuff, and you've got to, hold your tongue in certain points and be the quiet person in the corner. But I think
Mm.
what it was at home, it was like I've just been like bossed around, that kind of defiance of like, people have been telling me what to do all day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to come home and do more schoolwork, and I just want to talk to my friends. And I guess you just put it down to being like a teenager, or you just want to play games and you're just a child.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really see that as a symptom.
Mm.
How about you, Jules?
I think for me, something that was really sort of kind of like obvious in school, like when it came to kind of like symptoms and stuff, and sort of went over to being at home was I would slightly make a lot of like careless mistakes. And especially with my schoolwork was always something, but then also I put it down to the fact that I was also dyslexic, but I didn't know I was dyslexic. So a lot of the time it was sort of kind of like, I felt like I knew what I was doing, but you know, when you just kind of just like miss that answer, after when the teacher then says, but Juliana, did you look at this? And did you read this properly? And you're like, oh, how did I miss that? But it was just how my brain picked it up in a way where I completely missed, you know, when you get an equation of like A plus B plus C, I completely missed B and got to the answer and then realized that, oh, how did I miss B when B was in front of me, but I missed B completely. So I would do that quite a lot in school. And then when I get home, I always would get in trouble for just like, why did you drop that on the floor? Or, you know, you're using too much hot water. But then again, I feel like my mum was just a bit extra with like stuff, you know. You left it, stop leaving the hot water on for too long. It's like, but I need the hot water. So maybe it was just like my mum was very particular about things, but I did find that I was quite, you know, I would make the careless mistake. And then I think even as I am now as an adult, I get frustrated when I make careless mistakes. Like so much so where I'm just kind of like, and I know it's not me being stupid, but you know, when you just automatically feel like, oh, I'm so stupid. How did I miss that? You know, I get so angry at myself. So it's something that I'm trying to be a lot more nicer to me. Especially because for such a long time you've been told, well, I've personally been told that, you know, oh, you're being silly, or how would you make that mistake, or you're dumb, you're slow, you're stupid. So hearing that constantly to now knowing that actually it wasn't that I was that. And Jules, maybe don't be so hard on yourself, because now you are identifying those things. So, you know, give yourself a little bit more grace. I'm trying to give myself a lot more grace, but I still do find myself kind of being like, oh man, what did I do? So like I bought this really fluffy bucket hat and I absolutely love it. And I probably worn it twice and I don't know where it is. And it's really bothered me. And I just think, where could I possibly put it? I can't find it in my flat. But then again, I'm packing. So I've got to learn to not be so like hard on me. Like it will pop up somehow. And if it doesn't, I might just have to buy another one. You know, it's one of those
So it's
things.
not really the bucket hat. It's like the principle of like all the times you've lost something, I think.
Exactly. Exactly that, because I feel like I've always been kind of like, you know, if I hold something so precious, I make sure I try and hold on to it and not forget where I put it, because that's also another thing, the forgetfulness, or putting something down and then looking for ages, like, where did I just put it? I'm sure I just put it down.
And then for it to be the exact first place you looked in the first place.
Exactly. But to me, it's like my eyes completely just like la 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 la. It was lit. My eyes are just like, but I don't see it, and it's right there. But my eyes are like, I don't see it. So it's kind of just like, you know, being aware that it will turn up eventually, and not to, it's like you said, the principle of kind of like, you know, oh damn, how did I let that happen?
Do you know what it is as well? It's also when you can't find things, other people are like, oh, you're always so clumsy, or oh, you're always forgetting things. My gran used to say, oh, you'll forget your head if you don't, if it wasn't sewn on, you know, like, I mean, it's just that kind of stuff that also, like, within yourself, you're repeating those things to yourself. It's really funny that you say things about losing things, because I'm the same way. Like, I went to America and bought a NASA hoodie, and when I got home, I didn't have the NASA hoodie, and I have no idea what the NASA hoodie is. And that was 3 years ago. I've moved since then. I'm back since then. I still can't find it. And when I was really young, like my nan would be like, "Oh, Shana, go upstairs and look panda ting. You see the ting ting bring come." And I'm like, "That's not English. Like, what are you sending me for?"
How do you decipher that?
You know? And so I used to go upstairs and I used to look for the ting panda ting, which I don't know what the ting is. So I don't know what I'm looking for. And I'd come back empty handed. And everyone's, "Oh, Shauna, you can never find anything." And then my cousin or my aunt will go upstairs and they come back with the ting that I'm like, "How do you even know what it is that she's asking for?" Like, I don't get it. But it's just like stuff like that. Like, even though I now understand why. I never understood what I wasn't present in the moment to understand that she was having a conversation before about what it was that she wanted, and everybody else was in that conversation but me. I was in my head. And so when she sent me upstairs for it, I didn't know what she was talking about. But I also had my family constantly going, "You can never find anything, Shauna. Oh, don't send Shauna for anything." You know what I mean? Like, she's never going to find it. So it's kind of like that kind of, your repetition of those things doing it makes the people around you go, "Oh, you're always losing things. Oh, you're always doing this. Oh, you're always doing this." And then you start repeating them in your head. Whereas if they did know that we had those struggles as children, they probably would have been a little kinder. And maybe then we wouldn't have so much negative connotations for ourselves.
You're actually better than me. If I'm being honest, I would go up there, look for the thing for about 2 minutes, and then get distracted by something else. Like, I was notorious for, like, if I found like pictures or a photo book, I'm literally like,
definitely.
"Oh my God, look at this picture. Oh my God." I'll start. And I'm up there for like half an hour, to the point where my mum will be asking me, "Do you know that? Where are you? Oh, did you come up here again?"
Oh, knowing what you came up to look for is the thing, because you don't want to ask them twice, because they will cuss you.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely that.
Does that kind of feel like that like, for me, I feel like my RSD and my people pleasing stems from those kind of interactions. Like, I would be good, even though I would be bad, but I'd be good because I was like, I couldn't handle my parents being mad at me. So I just would try to, like, either not let them find out about my badness or just not do it. Because if my parents tried to tell me off, it would be tears. And they'd be like, "Why are you crying?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
What do you mean by you just wouldn't do it?
Like, if I know that it's going to get me in trouble, I'd be more hesitant. And I know my parents are going to find out about the thing that they've told me not to do. Like, if they told me not to go somewhere with my friends and I'm going to go there anyway, it'd be fine as long as I was 100% sure my mum could not find out about it. But if I knew that there was a possibility that I could be found out, and that I knew I was going to get in trouble for it, I would avoid doing that thing because I knew I was going to get trouble. But if I didn't know that I was definitely not going to get in trouble for doing this, I would risk it and I might get in trouble. But the fact that the trouble, I didn't know I was going to get in trouble, or there wasn't a possibility, meant that I'd go and do it. Do you get what I mean? So I suppose it did make me think about my impulses a little, because the threat of just my mum being angry, it's not even like she was, I guess she was quite scary, but I never really got hit or anything like that. So it wasn't like like the threat of like being beaten or anything like that. It was just like having my mum shout at me was enough to just be good. But it also has meant, like, now when I've grown up, it means that even like with my partner, it's like I'm kind of like, "Oh, if I do this, is it going to piss him off?" But I don't need to think about him. Like, I'm doing it because that's what I've done my entire childhood. Do you get what I mean? And I've just like grown up continually doing that. And so I'm second guessing the things that I should be doing because I'm too busy worrying about how other people are going to perceive it.
I don't know, I kind of feel like with my like mum and like my dad and stuff, they're like separated. I like, she would repeat stuff to me a lot and then be like, "What's wrong with you? I just said this. Why have you not come back with this?" But this like repeatedly happened, and she would just get really, really frustrated because she's just like, "I just said this to you." And I'm like, "I've already forgotten." Or I might like go into a room to go get something and then be like, wait, walk back out, and then be like, wait, I was meant to go get that, and then go back out, in, out, and it's just like, oh my God. And
So
also things, yeah, sorry.
no, I was going to say you're really good. At least you remembered that you forgot something.
Yeah, usually when I get to the other side of the like flat, then I'll remember.
No, I wouldn't even remember. I would like go up, be in the room, realize I was like, why am I here? Go out, do something else for like never remember it again. So you're good. At least your mum got you got the person that remembered.
Or like, I don't know, my experience is like I'm laying down and it's like, didn't I tell you just do X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, oh yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just always like, my default is like in bed, laying down.
I love my bed. Are we all bed chicks? Because I know Jules loves a nap.
Oh, I'm in bed right now. I'm in bed
Oh,
I
right now.
would be if the Wi-Fi was good. I would be.
I should have done that. That's such a good idea.
I would be, but my boyfriend's playing music in his office, which is right next to our bedroom, and yes.
I even bought like a bed desk.
Oh,
Oh,
I need me one of those.
in there,
Yes.
I might be more
You
productive.
can put your laptop on there. I don't know. I just can't work at the desk. It's just so hard for me to work. Like I have a desk right next to it, but I use the chair as like putting clothes on it.
That's what chairs are for,
I
acting as a
know.
clothes holder. Like I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna put these away, or I'm gonna
Exactly.
wear these jeans again in a couple of days. I'm just gonna leave them here and then forget about them.
And then it gets
That was-
piled up.
Yeah.
Yes, that was my main thing too. One of the things my mom would always say growing up too, you just wore the clothes, put them back in. Like I wouldn't put the clothes that I just wore back in. Like I would just set them like on like the bed edge or something like that. And she's like, right when you take that off, just put it back into the closet. Like the same, like it's just normal for them to like not have like, I just took it off. I don't know. I'm just gonna put it down.
No,
But
it
they're
can't go
like,
back in the
place
wardrobe.
it. Yeah, they're like, place it back in. And she's like, it would make everything easier if you did that right as you are changing. And like, I don't know why. Sometimes it just doesn't compute.
I'd never do that. It wouldn't happen. My mum used to go like, do your washing. I'd do my washing and literally like if you open my wardrobe, nothing was hung up. It was just all piled to the bottom of the wall.
You
Yeah,
just like,
definitely had
I'll just
piles
throw
in
it
in the closet.
That is the story of my life. Like growing up, I had like it's weird that I had this like little walk-in like wardrobe, but it wasn't really like me and my brother and my sister would share it. But I had quite a chunky bit of it. And every so often I'll be so proud of myself because like there'll be a Saturday where I'm at home and I'll tidy up everything.
Yes.
And by Sunday, everything is on the floor. Or everything. And the thing is, I don't know how it's happened.
Just one day of looking for something and everything is everywhere.
Literally.
That's still me now.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too.
You do not want to see the state of my room right now and my living room. I've got clothes on my sofa. Like
I'm so
like,
dead. My mom, she always tells me, you're so good at cleaning, but you never like it never lasts. Like like I'll clean it and it'll be amazing. I'll light that candle. I'll light that incense, and then that will be for that night. And then that's it. My room is a mess again.
Did you ever get like really upset if you like, because if I got into the mood where I'd actually clean and I'd tidy up and everything, like my wardrobe where everything was hung up and color coordinated, it would really annoy me when my cousin came over and decided to like do anything. It's not even that like she was doing anything that we wouldn't normally do, but I just tidied and you're coming and messing
It's when
it
another
up.
person does it.
Yeah, and
it's different.
I used to get so mad at her because I was like, literally just spent all of this time cleaning my room. My mum's been going on at me for like literally 2 weeks to do this. I finally done it and you're going to come back in and mess it up. And then I'm going to have to be told to do this all over again and repeat. So I used to get really annoyed when like just anyone would come into my like space that I literally just cleaned, and it would like, I'd get really, really angry at them, like really angry.
It doesn't surprise me.
Did any of you like have a thing for like daydreaming? Because I did that a lot, where I would kind of like go to like a different world where I am not me, and then I'd just be like all these different things going on, and I don't know why, but I
Like
daydream a lot.
Like doing what?
Just anything, like just because I struggled a lot with like school and just like life in general, and not like you, Juliana. I didn't find out I have dyslexia until I got to uni, and then I
Oh,
found
me
out I had
too.
ADHD this year. So like I used to do a lot of daydreaming, and I kind of feel like it was maybe like a masking kind of like coping mechanism for trying to like deal with all the stuff that's really overwhelming in your life. So I think I
Mm,
kind of like would do that a lot. So I don't know
mm.
if anybody else does it, or I don't know.
I think that kind of goes with also when you talk about like gaming as well and like virtual worlds. I think that kind of goes with the daydreaming and
Hmm.
like experiencing yourself in another space.
Mm.
Like as a child too, when you talk about you just wanted to play your games, I think that kind of,
Mm.
or like blogging on Tumblr, depends what area you're in.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like different virtual spaces were kind of where we found ourselves being able to, yeah, I guess I don't know if you call it daydream, but
I feel like that disconnection is definitely something I connect with, but in a different way. Like I was either gaming, I was reading, I was
mhm.
just always, and I don't really like like non-fiction. I'm always like fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, something that's gonna take me out of this world.
Oh
Mm.
wow.
I can literally literally wake up, be reading a book, go through the day reading. It won't be the same book because I read first, so it won't be the same book. I remember I had surgery when I got out of uni and I was home for like a few months, and even though I had surgery on my eyes, I literally went through 10 books in 2 days.
Wow.
Wow.
Because I just didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to be in my own world. And that was in my 20s, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't even really that young. And I'm one of these people who I can like just be in my bed. It could be dark. I could literally just be lying in my bed in a dark room, and like my parents or my grandparents or even my boyfriend, because I still do it, and he'll be like,
I still do that too.
why are you sitting in the dark? And I was like, well, why do I need the light on to think? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Oh my gosh. They're like, they turn on the light and I'm like, oh my
I don't want the
gosh.
light on. If I want the light on, I was very capable. We have smart lights. I could do it with my voice, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want it on.
Thinking about lights, like, did you ever think like I want the clap on lights? I'm like, I don't want to get
Yes,
up.
yes. I
That was like a
technically have
childhood
that.
thing.
Yeah, I
Oh,
made that
okay.
reality.
Nice.
Even to be honest with you, even I have smart lights in my room, and I'm not gonna lie to you, even telling it to come on. Sometimes I'm like, I can't be bothered. That's how much to even move my mouth. It's like, oh, I can't be bothered today. So I will just like lie in darkness. And I'm okay
Yeah,
with that.
yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Do you know what? I feel so much less weird now because everybody around me is kind of like, you're so weird. You just lie in the dark. But now
No,
I'm not.
Oh no, I do
Mm-mm.
it. I even sit in the dark sometimes, and then my partner will get
Mm-mm.
home, and he's like, "Why are you sitting in the dark?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I
Especially
just
after you've
am."
been overstimulated.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, it's just, I think in our university, at least, maybe, I don't know, it's not like really childhood, but at my university, the lights are horrible. Like, they're basically like prison lights. That's what yeah, the prison like infrastructure.
Fluorescent kind of
Yes.
thing.
And um, I could not focus in class at all because it's like, why do we need this much light? That was like different, what are they called? Sensory things that happened in class.
Mm.
I knew right when I stepped onto the university, I was gonna fail because I didn't know how to name it like before, but then I knew there was something off whenever I went to the campus. Like it just felt so overwhelming
Mm.
and the lights were just so much. So I feel like, but now I'm like, okay, I can kind of focus now because I have the medication and like I understand the ADHD and all that stuff. So it's, if I knew that before, maybe I would have connected that to sensory. But before I was just like, I just can't. And then I failed.
Did you find that, like, because you couldn't understand what was off, that like made other symptoms worse, or your mood to just not be able to manage it? Like, I just feel like when I was having like sensory overload and we were just talking about sitting in a room, like I never understood why I was doing that. I just knew that I
Mm-hmm.
needed that. And if I didn't get that, then my mood would just be unmanageable and I'd just be
Yep.
miserable. Like I'd be hot and cold. Did you find the same thing?
Oh, definitely. I was angry. I was so angry in like university too, and just like just familial things and just like more resentment. I think it was just also the like undiagnosis, like I'm bubbling over. And I just was not a pleasant person at that time. And I really like isolated myself. And I feel like if I knew what was going on, then I could obviously like have better boundaries. Cause now I'm like, okay, I feel overwhelmed. Sometimes I'll tell my mom, like, hey, I feel overwhelmed. I don't feel like talking currently, or like, I'm gonna, get back to you. Or like, I have better ways to explain things rather than just kind of like being moody and like it's blamed on the moodiness. Like, I'm able
Mm.
to explicitly say, hey, I'm feeling this way. Can you give me some time? And that has
Yeah.
drastically changed every relationship. I feel like, even just with friends too, knowing how to like who also like how friendships work. I feel like I realized even after like diagnosed, like what kind of people am I going to be able to connect with? Like a lot of things change, and I feel like I have better relationships with like a lot of people in my life now, and even able to create new relationships, because back then I just wouldn't even want to create any new relationships. And
Mm.
I would just destroy them, not in like the way of like kind of like not answering texts,
Yeah.
not like, just so overwhelmed, just so not engaged, coming to campus, leaving, um just for that class, and then still failing the class anyways, and then not engaging with anybody else. And even if other people wanted to engage with me, I wouldn't give them that much back. And so now I'm like able to really like assess, like, when am I feeling overwhelmed and tired, and how can I deal with this?
Yeah.
So I think that's a major thing,
Mm.
that I'm not as angry anymore because I know what it is.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the older I got with like trying to mask and trying to deal with not understanding myself, was the more angry I got, and I
Oh,
just couldn't get
definitely.
out of that anger. But now like since diagnosis, I feel a lot less angry. I feel like myself because I am quite like, I'm the kind of person who's always laughing. Do you know what I mean? But I couldn't
Yes.
be that
Mm.
person
That was
anymore.
me too.
Yeah.
I
So
got in
it's
trouble all the time. And then I became the angry person after, when I got into university. I was like, whoa,
and
you
what
know?
I think what was also making me feel so angry was the fact that like a lot of our mood changes is because somebody else has triggered us, something else has
Mm.
triggered us, and trying to explain to someone that you're angry while you're angry because of something that they did that you don't really understand why that made you angry. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just
Hmm.
going into circles and stuff like this.
See, I wasn't really an angry person. I'd say I was quite shy, but
Mm.
then kind of a bit outgoing, which sounds like a weird combination. But I think alcohol helps.
I was going to
So
say the
that
same
helped
thing.
me a lot.
Hmm.
That helped me so
Younger,
much.
as a younger
Uh,
person, or
Yeah, I
um, when did I start drinking?
probably
Maybe
about
14.
probably about
mm.
15. Yeah,
And
probably
like
so.
kind of just like
Wow.
lying. The benefit
Hmm.
of having parents that weren't together, just be like, my mum's not going to listen to this. Um, just being like, oh, no, seriously. Just being like, I'm going to go stay at my dad's. And they hated each other. So they never
Oh,
checked in with each other.
wow.
So
Uh,
that's like, my mum would never let me go out and play or do anything, but my brothers were allowed to.
that's annoying.
Mm.
So I kind of used to like lie and be like, yeah, I'm going to my dad's. And she'd be like, okay. But if I were to say I'm going to sleep over at a friend's and like actually do something social, it's a big fat no. Why do you need to go to
Yeah.
their house? Why are you going there for? Stay at home. Duh, 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 duh. And it's just like,
Hmm.
I just want to be like a child, like teenager or
Everybody
whatever.
else is doing it.
Yeah, so I never really got into trouble. I would say I was pretty well behaved, but I did lie so I could actually like go stay out at like in London and like the late hours and go drinking and like go to like metal gigs and like
Mm.
sleepovers and parties. Like that was kind of like my little bit of joy that I got through all the like struggling with everything else.
Mm. I
He-
do feel like I used alcohol as a coping
Yeah.
mechanism,
Yeah,
when
I was gonna ask that.
especially like there were things like when I look at, like, hindsight is a wonderful thing, right? So looking back at like when I got like the most drunk, for example, even pre-18, it was because of something else that was going to happen that I was trying to hide from, like
Mm.
heartbreak, or
Oh wow.
that just I just like couldn't cope, so I just drink. Or I don't know how to be social, so I drink, because that takes away your
Mm.
inhibitions, right? Like that stops you from being so anxious. So that made me the bubbly party girl that everybody thought I
Mm.
was. In actual fact, I really like staying at home and being in my bed.
Were
Oh no,
you
I
as
like to go out
young
and
when you
party.
started?
Yeah, probably about 15. Well, to be fair, I never like started drinking heavily at that time. It was more like um I would be at like house parties that people had a bit cooler parents,
Mm.
and they would like drink. I remember the first time I really drank was probably about 14, 15, and it was at a friend's house. As she was older than me, because I'm July, so I'm like one of the youngest people. And I remember,
Mm.
I don't know what it is, but I got so drunk I threw up all over her white walls. And we were just
White
like,
walls. Oh no.
yeah. And it was like, I don't even know how I got that drunk. Like, it was just that we were all drinking, but all of a sudden I was vomiting everywhere. um
Wow.
so I didn't drink much after that, but then after like 16 to like 18, even then it was kind of like you go to the pub because that's what everyone else was doing. There'd be
Mm.
loads of house parties, but I wasn't doing any drugs or anything at that age, which some people at my school were doing, so I feel like I was good.
I was not fortunate enough to have cool parents, because I remember the first proper time I got drunk, and like um it was in high school, like early high maybe like 15, 14. And then like they had their parents go away and they were like, oh, you can have a party, whatever alcohol you want, I'll just buy it. And I'm like, I can't even imagine in my household my mom like just being like, yeah, sure,
Mm.
have free reign of the house, I'll go away for a weekend just so
can,
you can celebrate your
can I ask a
birthday.
question? Were they of color?
No.
Because
No.
I do feel like it is a cultural thing, and it's not like just about racism though. Like, I do think black parents are just like, no.
Yeah,
No.
the big
No.
fat, like, don't even ask, like, don't
No.
even attempt. And I remember, like, I got so drunk, and then they had like space cakes, so you
Mm.
shouldn't really mix those. Somehow, I ended up in the shower with like my clothes on, with like some other friends, with like the water just running down on us, and I'm like, how the hell did I end up here?
Oh
But when you're young
wow.
and you're trying to escape, like you just go crazy. Like we had like a whole rain of the house, and all I remember is
Wow.
just being in the shower, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? I don't know.
That seems so like movie-esque, honestly, because I never had that. I never did drugs. I never drank or anything like that in my like
Mm,
teenage, yeah, childhood years. Like, I just, I don't know, like or smoked or anything. I never even smoked weed. I feel like I just did not have like the inclination to do that. I
mm,
don't know. I never used it as a coping mechanism, but I know a lot, like I could have had access to it. Like I had access to it, like of course friends were
yeah.
doing it,
Mm.
but I just never, I don't know. I just never had that push to do it and like get into that, I guess, like escapism of that.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, that
Well,
is
I
fun.
remember, like, I kind of remember the government being, "You'll die if you touch anything," so that put the fear in me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We had
So like,
Dare.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, how do you feel these symptoms have affected your relationship with like your friends and family as you got older?
I definitely felt that their perception of me, or my perception of how I needed to be in my family, like the more I lived with it undiagnosed, the more I pulled away from my family, um, and kind of pushed them away, um,
Mm,
because I guess, couldn't keep up with trying to keep up with everybody. And one thing that like my cousin said to me, like when I told her about ADHD, and it's funny because her brother has ADHD, but she was like, "Oh, is that why you're so mean to me?" And I'm like,
Oh,
Mean to you?
Oh,
Like, what are you talking about? When was I mean to you? And she was like, yeah, you used to be really mean to me. And I was like, maybe because you
oh
were annoying. I get it now. Yeah, probably. I probably was.
my gosh.
So,
uh,
but yeah, it's kind of like now that you take and they go, oh, okay, now that makes sense. But yeah, otherwise, I feel like now that I'm aware of it, I can kind of have those conversations with them again. And I definitely feel that there are some friendships that it wasn't so much that we fell out or anything, but because of my inability to continue to have more long distance, I don't see you at school every day friendships, meant that some really close friends that I would still want to be friends with, they're just kind of not around anymore. And that's really
mm,
sad. Do you know what I mean? I feel like
yeah.
they think something of me. Like I remember like even talking about in
Mm,
diagnosis and I'd be like, I would have friends and we'd be cool. And then one day I'd be the biggest bitch and they'd hate me and I had no idea why.
uh, like they said that you were,
I mean, sometimes it depends on
or
the
you mean like
situation.
you acted like that?
No. They were basically say, like treating me like I was like this horrible person that they
Oh,
they
okay,
like
okay,
weren't friends with me before, and I was just like the
okay.
most horrible person they'd met, and I didn't really understand why. So, like for example, in secondary school, so about 12, um, we all were in like kind of you did your classes with your tutor group, your form group, and was friends with these girls. And then when we got into the second year, I wasn't in as many classes with them. I was in classes with other people because we took different options and we
Mm,
had different intellectual abilities in different classes. And then when I started hanging out with them so much because I like had other people in other classes as well, it was kind of like didn't want to talk to me anymore. Ended up having arguments and fights with
Mm,
me over, I had no idea what I did for us to go from talking to each other every night after school to literally never wanting to talk to me again. And I'm sure I did
mm,
something, but I couldn't
yeah,
comprehend that of what it was at the time. And so it kind of hangs on with you
yeah.
and makes people have a perception of you that you're like selfish, and that actually you're not selfish. It's
Mm,
that I spend more time thinking about you than I do myself, but you're calling me
mhm.
mm,
selfish.
Wow. I feel like I had a recent thing like that where it's like they just cut you off when you don't know exactly what you did wrong.
Mm,
And then it's ADHD symptoms of like, hey, you're not like when you listen to me, you're not paying attention. Or like when you're looking at like you know how we do like that nod kind of a thing, like that kind of thing. It's like
mm,
people are it's like easier to let go rather than make sense of it all.
mm. Especially if
Um,
you can't make sense of it, because you're only able to make sense of it now that you know.
mhm,
But like even now that we know, we're still learning about ourselves.
right. It could have been
mm,
anything. It could have
Yeah.
been like, oh, you interrupted us so many times. And it's like, you wouldn't know. You didn't
Mm.
know, you know?
Yeah. I wish people would tell you though, like I struggle with that.
yeah. I don't know. I
Especially,
kind of had a thing where like I would have best friends and then they would eventually turn on me. But I remember I had one at uni who I got on really well with, and like I was at her house and she had a jacket that she didn't really like anymore. She was like, "Yeah, just take the jacket, like you can have it." It was like from like Topshop, so it's kind of like more expensive like back then. And I was like, "Are you sure?" She was like, "Yeah, yeah, have it. It's cool." Like her mum would
mm,
literally buy her anything she wanted. So we were at uni. Somehow she decided she didn't like me anymore, which I don't know why, and
oh,
then went
wow.
and told everyone that I stole that jacket from her house. And I was
Oh,
just like,
wow.
what the hell? And I've had like people do stuff like that to me, and I kind of feel like part of me, like obviously not knowing I have ADHD and just being an overly anxious person and stuff. And I was bullied for like 7 years at school and in high school. I kind of feel like maybe there's like some sort of sign on my forehead that just says like it's okay, just treat me however. But obviously my
Mm,
ADHD wouldn't like I would have struggled to have processed how people were treating me and like being able to assess situations and stuff like that and
mm,
like friendships. But it is really hurtful when like someone's in your life and they kind of just like abandon you and disappear. But to lie and say that I stole a jacket when you gave it to me, like sometimes like I don't know, So then people kind of stopped talking to me for a bit, and I was just like, but I haven't done anything. Like, I don't know. People are weird.
I agree.
People are definitely weird.
Yeah.
Very,
what the
very
hell?
weird. I was gonna say, when it came to kind of like my relationships, I think not to say that a lot of my friendships have been on the surface, but I've done really well with kind of using my bubbliness as a cover up to sort of kind of like my struggle with ADHD. So a lot of the time, a lot of my friends don't necessarily know that I have it. They know I have it, but I guess it hasn't changed the way they look at me. But at the same time, I was having a conversation with my sister the other day, because me and my brother and sister are extremely close. And she was listening to an episode of ADHD Babes. And it was an episode that I think trying to get out of the house. And we were just having a discussion. She was just like, I'm obviously aware of your diagnosis and stuff like that. And I'm aware that, ADHD has really sort of kind of like been something in your life that has affected you, but she hadn't realized it to the point where I think she kind of, when it came to certain things, she always narrowed it down to me being lazy. And hearing myself talk about it, and with other people who are sort of in the same sort of kind of like realm of, what ADHD has done for them and kind of like stuff like that. She was just like, she has a newfound respect. I was like, so you didn't respect me before?
That is so funny.
But yeah, she was just like, she appreciates kind of like everything that, because I would push myself even when things were a struggle for me, or things weren't exactly as registered as, say, somebody who, didn't have the things we would face on a daily basis. She was just like, I have like a newfound respect, especially at the fact that, notoriously in my daily life, I am not the most organized person ever known to man. Like I'm like really, really scatty. But when it comes to work and being organized with the work that I do, it's kind of like I'm on it. But it has to take a lot out of me to be on it, because I know that I have to be very, very aware that, people are relying on me to make sure that I'm organized, and to make sure that I'm doing the right things on this project, and to make sure that, my boss knows what terminal he needs to get to when he's catching his flight, because obviously that's what I'm being paid to do. But when it comes to my own sort of kind of like daily living, I made
a joke with my friend. I was like, I'm a work coordinators, but we can't coordinate our own lives, like
please say it loud for the people at the back, because oh my god, that is literally my life.
You guys
imagine. Sorry.
You reminded me of this video that I really needed. I've been sitting here struggling to remember who posted it, but they were basically talking, like animating the internal kind of like the little childing everybody, and then the responsible adult, right? So they had this like little monkey, and that was like the playful one, and that it always wanted to take control of the helm. They were on a boat, but then the responsible, adult, which in their illustration was like a man, would come in, sit the monkey down, and like would take the helm and do what you need to do, and then the monkey can come out. And I'm like, no, my monkey has my man tied up and hanging on the side of this boat, and it's screaming, let me up, let me up, and the monkey thinks it's funny. That's the kind of like thing that I have. But if you, like what Jules was saying, if I have someone else who's asked me to do something, or someone else who's relying on me getting that done, it will get done. But as soon as I have to it's like I'm okay with disappointing myself, But everybody
Mm.
else is just off limits. Like, you cannot ever disappoint anybody else, but you can disappoint yourself all you like.
But is it
Yeah.
is it disappointment? Like, sometimes I'm like, this thing could wait. Like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, it could wait, but for other people, it can't wait. So it's like, I wouldn't be disappointing myself if I waited, but it's like other people have a different like system. And so like, you know what I mean? Like, for me, I'm like, okay, it's fine. I could wait and I could do that at this other time. But for other people, it's like, no, you have to do that now.
Yeah.
And
So I feel like
that's the thing. Yeah, mine is riddled with guilt. I feel guilty if I don't do the said thing that I'm supposed to do for others. So I guess
Yeah.
it kind of like it kind of goes with the people pleasing, you know, even though like I could be doing something for free, but in my head I'm just like, I've got to make sure I do it for that person because they're gonna think that I'm, I guess, unreliable if I don't do it. And there's this element of like, because
the
I've
RSD.
spent and I've
So
spent
bad.
so much of my life masking. So if somebody is now like figured out, oh, actually Juliana's not that organized, actually, I want to still play up to that part. I have to play up to that part. You can't be the one that like drags me out of my mask. I want to be the one that's responsible for doing that on my own terms. So rather than doing that, I will just be like, yeah, I can do it, and I will do it immediately.
I have to do it immediately or it won't get done. Like it has to be there and then. Like, I have to make the decision there and then. Just to what you were saying before, Jules. Oh no, my train of thought's gonna go. God damn it! I should have wrote it down. It literally just came to me. Why is it doing this? I got an itch, and all of a sudden that itch took over.
I'm trying to think what Jules said before.
It was, you were talking about
The masking, the
the
dragging out of.
masking, like, oh right, yes, your sister saying that it always comes down to laziness. So on that point, like, kind of, yeah, all of the things that you said after that is like, you are capable of it. We are all capable of it, but the energy we have to do to focus on that task to be capable of it is one thing. And I think that also, like, bringing it back to like our childhood and like when like Beza was just saying about like that test that she was so distracted in, it must have been something else because you're smart. It really comes down to that, like, that lazy, like, you are able to do it because literally my mum, like, when you put your mind to it, you do it.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah, when I do put my mind to something, I get it done because I'm focused on it and I'm not distracted because I'm hyper focusing on it. But she didn't see that. She just didn't see it. Saw you can do it, but you're not doing it now, so that must mean you try then and you don't try now. But actually there's a whole, like, that it wasn't an interest to me, and that made it harder to hyper fixate on. And then that again it follows you, doesn't it?
Imagine if like you got paid to organize your own life as well. Imagine that.
I might actually get done.
That could be the solution. Just imagine that.
I feel like I will always be reminded that it's my own life. So you know when you're just like, it's my own life, it can wait. And you know what I mean? There's no sense of urgency.
What's the KPIs on that? Like, how are you going to be indicating how well you've done when you only have to like report to yourself?
And
yeah, that would be hard. Like, I'm not very good at like even just saying, oh, yeah, of course I'm good at this. Like, I might pretend to toot my own horn, but it's a front. Like,
oh, I can't do any tooting. I need to learn, but I can't do any tooting. So now that you're aware of your diagnosis, what would you have done differently back then to manage your symptoms, if you could? It's kind of a difficult question.
Yeah, it is.
Literally,
It's so
like
hard.
thinking.
That's why I'm like, yeah, you go first, Jules, because I'm like,
I'm sitting there with a thinking cap, like,
I feel like it's so hard to say we would have done things differently as children because we didn't really manage our lives. But the one thing I think I would have done differently is be more vocal about my struggles. I feel like I never even gave my parents the chance to help me because I didn't really know that it was something that, other people didn't struggle with, but I didn't open my mouth and say, so I didn't tell them how distracted I used to get in exams. I didn't tell them how things made me feel or how sensitive I was. Like my dad loves loud music. I love loud music, but in some like uncomfortable situations, that kind of like bass vibration would actually give me an upset stomach. But I still never told
Oh,
my
wow.
parents. Like literally, I just deal with it.
Mm.
And so I feel like it's even like just small things like that I didn't understand. And so I just didn't tell anybody. I think that's the only thing I would have been able to have a control of as a child, is just making sure I was a little bit more vocal about what was going on inside my head and that people couldn't see, because a lot of our symptoms are like internal.
Mm.
I think it's also about children having agency as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's also being a child. It's like, I don't want to upset my parents. Like, even if you don't have ADHD, it's like you don't want to be like, hey, I don't like this thing that you're doing, because like children are not allowed to make those kind of statements. It's like you either do it or you don't, kind of like that's kind of like the societal understanding of children, is kind of like they don't think for themselves and they're not like
Yeah.
their own person. And I feel like with that, having that like sensory thing as well, it creates like more of a, I guess it makes it even more difficult to be a child with that undiagnosed like issue. So
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but I kind of feel like I didn't really get to be a child, because like one of my brothers, I kind of had to like do all the motherly things, and it was seen as my duty, like at a very, very young age. So I actually didn't really get to be a child. So it's like when I think about that question, I don't know how to answer it, because in a way I was made to be an adult from like 12 or whatever, but then was also treated like a child. So it's like pick one. So it's actually like I honestly don't know how to answer that question personally with my situation.
Maybe it's more like, if you had a child who had ADHD, how would you support them now knowing what we know? Maybe it's easier to look at it from a parent's perspective than it would be like as like Beza
Mm,
was saying, you only have so much advocacy as a child.
yeah.
I
Be
think
a good
definitely
listener.
yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, be a good listener.
Yeah.
I think that's a good start. But yeah, sorry, Juliana. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was saying kind of echoing off of that. Yeah, being a good listener as well as being kinder.
Mm,
I think if I had adults who were a lot kinder, who I guess, and I, I don't want to sit here and, kind of like blame my parents or anything, but being aware of, you know, kind of like neurodiversity and all of those things. I think if they had some awareness, then maybe that would be different. But then at the same time, would it have been different if they knew? I don't know.
mm,
But I think for me, as if I was to have a child, I think, kind of coming out and being kinder, and listening, as well as, not quick to anger, because I think
mm,
that's also another thing, is because I showed different ways of, taking information in, or when I didn't feel like I was getting stuff, I would get, frustrated or distracted. The adults will get angry at me. And then I
mm,
would just be kind of like, but what did I do wrong? I'm
yeah.
only sort of expressing how I am feeling, because I'm not understanding, or the information isn't, kind of correlating the way you expect it to correlate with me.
Mm,
So it's kind of just, not being angry. And then I think, if I look similar to you, Shireen, I growing up, I was also made to be the adult from a
mm,
young age. So there was no time for me to, kind of just like focused on me and having a childhood. I was literally responsible for my brother and my sister.
And it messes
From
you up like so much.
100%.
Completely messes you up.
Like you asked to be born
100%.
first.
Yeah, yo, honestly, I'll be like, anyway, that's another story for them. Because that
I mean,
doesn't just get.
that's a whole thing. It's like, I don't know, like you can search it up. It's like adultification,
Yeah.
where it is
But I
children
think it's
having
also
to be adults.
it's also the fact that as Black women,
Yeah.
or females, we would have been expected to act. We would have been adultified anyway,
Yeah,
outside of our family. So like it's like you guys were having it within your family, and you would have
Mm.
also experienced that
had
outside
it
of
in
the family.
school.
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely,
exactly,
100%.
exactly. I was
Yeah.
really lucky. I had that to a certain extent, but my parents were separated and my siblings are from my dad, so I never lived with my siblings. So I got to be a child and an only child with my mum. And and then I had to be the adult, the looking after all of the siblings and cousins on my dad's side. But I never had to do that. So I got a balance, but you guys didn't.
Yeah, no.
I was gonna say adultification is mainly geared towards like Black women or Black girls that had to be adults. So it is something that's like relative. You know what I mean? Like adultification was like the theory of that is in relation to Black girls having to be adults. So it is when you say that, it is in relation to Black girls.
Right. Okay. So it's normally like adultification is like what you do to Black girls specifically.
Exactly.
Right.
Just like you know how
Yeah.
like misogynoir is like misogyny towards Black women, like adultification. If you see that, it's like the bias of like adultifying Black girls.
I didn't know it was that specific.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it's definitely a pattern.
Yeah.
I was gonna say also, sorry.
No.
Go Sheena and then Shauna and then I'll go after you.
I was just gonna say to what Jules was saying about listening. Well, Shireen said listening, but like being more patient. It's also like letting. I think I would just like not allow my child to throw unnatural tantrums, but just make sure that they know it's okay to express emotions. I think especially if I had a boy, because I just feel like we're just kind of, you need to hush up, and you need to look after your siblings, or you need to just do that. Can take away and like get people to bottle up, and you end up just being inside yourself, and that's also what is one of our problems. So I would want them to be able to feel comfortable to just be in their emotions for at least a little bit of amount of time. Like, no, we shouldn't dwell, and even I need to learn that for myself. But I think letting them experience their emotions is something I would want for my future child.
Something I saw on the internet that I was like kind of is important to remember is like our parents could have tried their best, but it could also have still been like a traumatic time, or like it could have still not been what the child needed.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's also sometimes people are like, oh, like parents are like, I did my best, and it's like it still could have hurt you even if it was their best with what they knew. And it's like you are able to forgive like your parent, of course, for if anything that you need to forgive them for, but also remembering that just because it is their best doesn't mean that it automatically means that it was a good thing for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like it wasn't okay. But I kind of had the thing where nothing I did was like good enough, and also like me getting into alternative music from the age of 11, like strictly, that was another thing that was like a no. So then that made me even more of an outcast in my family. So it's like I just couldn't like win.
Yeah, that
But
totally makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's all about just taking from what you wish people have done from you and making sure that the future generation have that. And that's all we can do, really, because we're all going to make mistakes and nothing's going to be perfect. But we need to, I feel like as a society, neurodivergent or neurotypical, we forget easily. Now, I forget easily, and I know I have my issues with that, but there's things that I do remember, like you don't forget everything. But it's kind of like society, we keep doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again, expecting different outcomes. And it's like, actually, we could have learned from that. We could have learned from the generations before, and we're not really doing it. We're making the same mistakes. So I feel like if we, like the fact that we have like this podcast, this group, where we can come together and we can discuss this is things that the generations, or sort of say, because the generations obviously can be part of the group, but before like ADHD Babes, there was no one that no place that you could go, and even that in itself is one thing that we're doing for the next step of people to be coming out of, even like they're teens right now and they could be just turning 18 and struggling at uni and come across us. We didn't have that, and I think it's just things like this and just trying to make the world a little, just that one step closer.
Also, I think one thing, I totally agree with that. And I also, one thing is like, there's like an understanding of these kind of things as like westernized as well. I think that's kind of like a thing where like a westernized, like how come all these kids here have ADHD and da 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 da, but it's like the science there, it's like if they're in another country or anything, like they're seen as like more of a quote unquote like crazy person, or like like they're treated, they're that bullying type of way or outcasted. It's like it's treated in that way, or their symptoms are like, oh, your aunt always forgets this, or your aunt does this and all that stuff. So it's like now it's like able to name that and not be like, oh, it's just like a westernized thing, but like it can affect like anyone, like anywhere. And I feel like that's also important to remember, that also with ADHD Babes being international, that's like we can connect with like people that are affected like literally anywhere in the country or the world. I mean,
It's funny how even though you could be on the other side of the world, like you are right now, Beza, but we can connect and have similarities. Like you think, growing up in different cultures, we would, find it hard to have experienced similar things, especially at childhood. But it's kind of interesting to find out, like we were just like, none of us know each other. We all had different lives, and we're all just saying the same thing. Like that, you don't get that without a group,
Definitely, it's really affirming. But I wanted to just, I guess, recap about what we talked about today and within childhood. And I guess I feel like the main thing from our childhood is that if there was support would have been like very essential to our foundation of like how we understand ourselves as adults, and how we wouldn't have internalized the being easily distracted or forgetting items, or being just a defiant teenager, or even getting into like coping mechanisms of like drinking, or the different ways that we tried to maybe even white lie ourselves out of things to like be a good, to seem like the good person, because it's just like, dang, I keep messing up. It's like that, and even that leads to like us pushing our families away or pushing our friends away, and like those kind of things. It's just like a domino effect, I think, that we are able to address better now. I could say we all got diagnosed like after the pandemic, and that kind of boiling point. And understanding that we're kind of burnout from the masking. And so I think that is there anything that you think that we missed out in conversation?
No.
Okay, great. So I guess we can move on to, I guess, the last kind of points is like, what is one thing that you will take away from this conversation? And I guess either Jules or Shauna can start.
I think what I would probably take away from this conversation is how how much of, I guess now looking back on everything, being aware of the support we now have, not only with ADHD Babes as a platform, but just the sort of support that we can get from, from work, from, you know, different sort of areas of our lives. Well, for me personally, I'm really taking advantage of kind of, you know, using that support or asking for that help. Because I've spent a lot of my life just kind of again, like I said, masking and not, you know, asking for the help. Whereas now I'm not afraid to. If there's something, okay, yeah, I need help. Yeah, I need it. I really do. I'm not even, there's no if, buts, or maybe. I need it. So it's definitely something that I kind of have learned from this conversation, and, you know, speaking to some amazing people and talking about, you know, our experiences it feels, I don't know what the right word is. It's nice because you don't feel alone.
Affirming.
Yes, that's the word. Affirming. You know, it just feels like I'm not alone, because for the longest time I would think that, are you sure there's nothing wrong with you? And I was made to feel like it was. But to be, again, part of a community where, you know, not like compare notes, but you can compare notes. Oh yeah, I used to do that. That was me. Oh my god. Yeah, I get it. High five. You know, sort of vibe. So like, I am super, super grateful for this platform, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna stop talking now.
Never stop talking. Never stop talking. I completely agree. Like, I feel like I missed the support group yesterday, and I've been busy on Wednesdays, so it's been hard to catch it. And like, just having this conversation, or even just listening to an episode, it's kind of like you relate so much, that what Jules was saying about, like, you something wasn't quite right, something like you're weird. Like, I used to be like, I'm weird, but I used to try and own that, you know what I mean? And I still kind of feel like I'm weird, but at the same time, I don't think that that's a negative anymore. And just taking away from being able to, like, we talk a lot about our symptoms and what we're going through now, but taking away the kind of similarities that we had in childhood, and especially as I start to like approach an age where having kids is something that plays on your mind, kind of thing, and where I've got like nephews and stuff like that, like I feel like it's good for me to see what we experienced as children, so that we can make sure that the next generation have a little, like, the support and the stuff that they need, that we weren't able to get ourselves until now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you could be their advocate as well. Not just based on their smartness, but like, hey, there must be something else.
But yeah, exactly. And it takes talking to other people and comparing those things, because they're not necessarily diagnostic criteria, but comparing those things, I feel like, even like, you know, that saying, you know, when you get diagnosed, you see ADHD everywhere. Yeah,
you do.
and it's kind of like, now that you know what to look for is a whole nother story. Whereas if I never got diagnosed, if I wasn't having conversations with you guys today, or just listening to podcasts in general, or joining the support group and the events that we do, I probably wouldn't have picked up on those. So I'm grateful that I now am more sort of self-aware, and that I have a group that I can just be like, is this weird or is this ADHD?
I know, I love coming to the support groups. Like, that's how it started. I feel like that's how everyone's like ADHD Babes journey started. It's like coming to the support groups and being like, oh my gosh, like today this thing happened, or like this week. So yeah, it's I love like being in ADHD Babes like event or anything like that, even though I can't be in there in person, but you know.
We'll
But
get to America one day.
I know, I saw pictures though. I was like, oh my god, that's Shauna.
Yeah. No, I wasn't there. It wasn't me.
I thought I saw you at a certain event.
No.
Really?
Oh, it might be when
I did see you at an event.
And Jules, was Jules in it?
I think so. Maybe it was like a group. I don't know. It was a group picture. I know I saw Viv and I saw you too. Your hair was out.
Oh yeah, it was when we were recording when we did the
Oh,
sickle
okay.
cell one. Yeah, that was
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I saw those photos.
Yeah,
I saw
I was
those.
like, hey.
Yeah, just in the
That looked
background.
like fun.
It
Mhm,
was.
it did. It
We'll
looked
do
fun.
more. We'll do more. Obviously, Beza, we're trying to find you some other American babes so that you can have in some
Yeah. Where the American
in-person
babes at?
podcasts. Yeah. If
My
you're an American babe and you're interested in
Mhm.
hosting the podcast, give us a shout because Beza's
Let us know.
lonely.
I'm in Washington State also.
Just so you
Seattle,
know,
even
just so you know.
better.
Give us a shout. podcast@adhdbabes.com.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, is there anything that I guess you guys would like to share, that you have anything coming up? I know, Shauna, you have some work going on.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's not necessarily to shout about. I have been doing quite a bit of voiceover stuff. I'm still working on some ADHD babe stuff. So there's for me, what's coming
Mhm.
soon is more ADHD babe stuff. Honestly, I just got a new car, and that's all I think about.
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
congratulations.
Yeah, it's like a bright orange to match these.
Oh my gosh.
ooh.
Wow.
Wait for it. Wait
Yeah, I
for
know.
it.
I was like, you haven't posted that. I haven't seen
No,
I'm
it.
coming.
I'm not so much the social media person. Let me just shh.
I call shotgun.
So the next ADHD babes. I can't see.
Yes.
It's like
Vroom,
a
vroom.
glare.
Wait.
The glare.
Yeah.
It looks yellow, but it is orange. Yeah, that's
Oh
better.
wow. Is that a sport car?
No, but it does have sports mode.
Okay.
But I think they just made it look sporty, but
It does look sporty. That's interesting.
yeah.
Whoa, that's
But
cool.
it's funny because as we were recording, my partner just left, and the only reason why I knew he left was because the car literally is at my window and I saw the lights.
Oh.
And you're like, where are you taking my baby?
No, because we now don't know when anyone well, like, because we share the car, we now don't know when each other leave. Because he was like to me,
Oh.
"Did you go out to the shop earlier?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, I don't know, because you turned on the car and it was silent." So
Oh.
because you can't
It's a
hear
new
it,
car.
like literally,
Yeah.
it's
Before it's like you could hear the old car moving.
well, it's an EV, so because it's electric, it literally doesn't start up. So like there is no startup. But
Oh.
yeah, so that's all I care about right now. So
That's like I've been looking in the market, so but I can't get one till like a year because I think I'm moving. So it's like I can't buy a car and then move, you know?
yeah.
Mm.
You got anything going on, Jules?
No, trying to move. It's been
Hmm.
absolute hell. The housing situation currently in London is
Hmm.
completely
Legit.
disgusting. It's so disgusting. No words.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's literally my life. Like I'm half living in boxes and half still got some clothes in my wardrobe. So
Ooh.
hoping that the 101 viewings that I've had over the past week or two, something will finally kind of just like be like, yeah, your
I
offer's been
know.
accepted.
We're wishing
So
for you.
Yeah.
thank
Yeah, we'll
you.
keep our
Honestly,
fingers crossed.
I
Yes.
just need all the positive vibes and
The
energy.
energy.
Sending,
Yes, the
sending,
ADHD
Flowing,
babe energy.
Thank
flowing.
you.
Jules will find the perfect place.
I know, yes.
So I guess we're wrapping up. I just wanted to thank you both, Shauna and Jules, for joining us this week. If any of our listeners would like to connect with you, is there, how can they get in touch? Social media, websites?
Yes. Oh, you go first, Jules. Go ahead.
So you can find me on Instagram. I'm Jules Katrina. So it's Jules with a Z at the end, Katrina. And I
With a
can't,
K.
I never. Yeah, there we go.
Do you want to spell it
Shauna's so
out just
used
in
to
case?
this, so
No,
sometimes I just don't remember
it's
my
also
own.
it's also
handle.
that it's my mum's name, but she's with a C. So
Oh. Do you
K
want
is
to
So yeah,
spell
you
it
can find
out?
me on Instagram. So yeah, so it's Jules. So it's JULEZKATRINA. Wow. I really
My
had to think about
ADHD
the
just
letters.
went, wait, what letters did you say? Sorry.
I literally had to visually think of the letters in my head to be able to spell it out loud.
That is so funny. And then Shauna, do you have?
Yeah, so I'm on social, although I'm not really on social. So my social handle is Shay_Cam on everything, I think. So that's SHAYE_CAM. Or if you're looking for a voiceover artist, if you're liking my voice, then
Hire
then
Shauna.
it's my website, which is shaunacvo.com, not .co.uk. God, shaunacvo.co.uk.
It'll be alright. It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah.
So if
Yes,
anyone can check
definitely.
it, it'll definitely be there. So don't forget that you can reach out to us with a message for our Dear Babes advice episodes. You can send us a voice note or a written message by clicking the links on the show notes.
Once again, we'd love it if you could leave us a rating and a review and let everyone know your thoughts. Catch you next time. Thank you so much, Juliana and Shauna.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and needs help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit ADHDBabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.